Okay, so now that you know a little bit about using your Casio or your TI to solve equations for x and for y, now we need to talk about the variety of equations you can solve with your calculator. So this focus of this video will be on rewriting equations to make them calculator ready. As you've noticed by using your calculator, everything has to be in terms of y equals. Your list of equations are called y1 and y2 and y3, etc. So everything needs to be y equals. And so we're going to look at 3 different ways of writing equations that don't start out as y equals and how to get them y equals. First, function notation. We talked about that last chapter. We have g of x here. Remember, that's the function's name. It also tells us the input is x. So, and the function is 2x minus 7. So this over here, this g of x, this is representing the answer that the function gives us. This is the output. Well, another thing we know for the output is y. So really, ultimately, that g of x is really a y. So this equation is calculator ready. It just doesn't look like it. So we're ready to type that in. If we type that in y1, we type in y equals 2x minus 7. And then we come here to find g of 4. 4 is an x value. It's an input for the function. So we have to think back to, well, how do I put in x's into my graphing calculator? Well, on my Casio, it's the F1 button with trace written above it. And on my TI, 83 or 84, it's just the trace button itself. And then remember, you type in the x value, in this case 4, type in x equals 4, and then enter. Remember, enter is EXE on a Casio. And it's actually enter on the TI. So we'll type in the number 4, type in the number 4, and print enter or EXE. Okay, what about if we had find x when g of x equaled 9? Well, g of x, again, that's the output. That's the same as having y equals 9. So we'll put that in y2. Whenever we have it in y2, then we'll look for an intersection. On our Casio, remember intersection. Once you can see it on your screen, F5 for solving, and then F5 stands for intersection. On the TI, that would be second, and the trace button. And then choice 5 is intersection. And then we have to press the enter button 3 times to get the answers, to answer the questions. Alright, so let's pause and take screenshots and see what our answers actually are for this example. Alright, so as we can see on the first one, we did trace 4. My cursor moved to the answer and it tells me that y equals 1. So g of 4 equals 1. When I put y2 equals 9, suddenly, oh, the picture's bad. Suddenly there's a line drawn up here at 9, and there's my intersection. And it tells me that my answer is x equals 8. Alright, so let's see how to rewrite a few more. I don't think we'll take screenshots of everything, but here's the calculator steps if you need to return to this slide to see those at any point. Okay, so what if it's in point slope form? Well, here's our y. It's almost by itself, but it's got plus 4 next to it. So if the calculator needs it to be y equals, that 4 has got to go. So subtract 4. Now I like to do as little change as possible so that I don't make unnecessary mistakes. So I don't distribute the 4. I don't try to combine like terms. I just put subtract 4 at the end of the problem behind the parentheses. Now the calculator can do all the messier work for me, and I'm ready to put my equation in my y1 and answer my 2 questions which appear underneath. So let's just look at our problems, and let's decide which one of these is trace and which one of these we need the intersection steps for. So read them and think about it, and then we'll see if you're right. Okay, so what did you think? If you're finding x when y equals 3, where do we put y equals 3 in? We put y equals and y equals. So if y equals 4 times x minus 2 minus 4, then y2 can equal 3. Put that into y2. And then we'll have 2 lines in there. We'll do our intersection steps. F5, F5 on your Casio, or second trace 5, enter, enter, enter on your TI. Okay, so what about finding y when x equals 1? If you have an x value, that's when on the graph screen we do trace. F1 is trace on your Casio. Okay, but the critical new information here was how we are supposed to rewrite a point slope equation to place it into y1 on our calculator. What other types of equations might we need to rewrite? Standard form. We might need to rewrite standard form when x and y are on the same side of the equal sign. How do we do that? Well, here's the y. We want it by itself. So we're thinking of solving steps. So we'll start at adding or subtracting because we're doing PEMDAS backwards. So let's add the x's. Add 3x to the other side. So the 3x's cancel each other out. Be careful that you don't lose your negative there. Negative 4y equals 13 plus 3x. They're not like terms, so we don't add them together. And then we have to divide by negative 4 to get y by itself. Yay, y by itself. Remember, when you put this into the calculator needs to know to divide by 13, the 13 and the 3x, both by negative 4. So to tell the calculator that, put parentheses around the top, the numerator of the calculator. If you forget the parentheses, it just thinks the second number is divided, not both numbers. So all spelled out in a row, it would look like parentheses plus 13 plus 3x, then divide by negative 4. On a Casio, the divide by will look like that. On a TI, the dividing will be on the slash. So that's what we put in y1. And again, a little quiz down here, old information. Reading our 2 questions. Which one of these do we use our intersection directions for? And which one do we use our trace directions for? Okay. When you know a second y value, like y equals 3, that's when you put this in y2 and then locate your intersection to answer the question. When you know an x value, that's when you can use trace. Did you get it right? All right, one more time. What's on the slide? Standard form again. So think about it. What are the 2 steps you need to get standard form to be in y equals form? Okay. Did you say subtract 2x? If so, good. So that leaves us with 7y equals 11 subtract 2x. Then that 7 needs to go. This time it was positive 7, so we just divide by positive 7. So y equals, remember those parentheses around the top so that 11 and 2 both get divided by 7. So all in a row it would look like 11 subtract 2x in parentheses and divide by 7. That is what goes in y1 so that you can answer all your questions about it. So now one more time with the review work. Of the 2 questions under the problem, which one is the one that we use trace for, and which one is the one we use intersection steps for? Think about that for a minute, and we'll see if you're right. All right. So when x equals 13, when you know an x, trace. Oops. And when y equals negative 3, when you know a y, remember use y2, and now you have 2 lines, so you can find the intersection to find your answer for x. All right, good luck.